It is a unique tradition in Kerala, and the traces of this tradition is not very clearly mentioned in any documents, but there are some indications through some commentaries which explain what are their main interests. And we know that it's a tradition that came from North India, but not as the Ashtavadyas. But Ashta means 8, and there are 8 parts in Ayurveda, classical Ayurveda, and these Vaidyas were supposed to be masters of all 8. And so that's the name, Ashtangam, 8 parts. And in Kerala, there was already a folk tradition of healing before Ayurveda came. And when Ayurveda arrived with the Brahmins who arrived from the north, or maybe through even Buddhists, it integrated the local traditions, and from that, the Ashtavaidya tradition was born. And historically speaking, if we look at the Kerala context, we have the quality of the plants in the region, which was already a very useful thing for anybody who was a Vaidya coming into this region. And it is an amalgam, a mixing of the local culture, medical culture, and the northern Indian Ashtanga Vaidya. So there were many families that started learning this form of and developing this form of medicine in Kerala. And once upon a time, they said there were 18 of families. Then it diminished to 8. Now there are about 5. But we'll just talk about the basic areas that they cover. The particularity of this tradition is that their way of learning was very intense, and it was within the family that it was transmitted. So there was a special system of learning where you learnt the Ashtanga Hridayam, written by a man from Sindh region in the Indus Valley, who supposedly came down to Kerala. That's the legend. So we may have to talk about some legendary aspects. So this man, Vagbhata, he's supposed to have come, and as a Buddhist, he wasn't received anywhere else. And in Kerala, he found a atmosphere that was much more open, and he established a small, one would say a school of some sort, in Plamandol, which is near Pattambi, between Pattambi and Perindalmanna. So in this Plamandol village, legend has it that the Plamandol moose, they are Vaidyas, became students of his. And even today there is a puja done in the name of this Vagbhata, as it's called Yoga Raja Puja or something like that. But the main thing is that legend also goes to show that somebody brought this tradition, may not be Vagbhata, but one of his students or one of his followers much later in history, and established a kind of tradition which could be transmitted among the local Vaidyas. So some families from these local Vaidyas were willing to learn this, so they must have learned Sanskrit. And in the context of the Brahminical culture in Kerala, there were centers where learning was promoted. So most of these Vaidyas were attached to some of these centers. But as we know it, the Ashtavaidyas were living around the Nila, between Thrissur and Calicut. That was their area. But then some of them went further down south to Kottayam, to Velloda, Cherthala. So they spread their influence and created a whole tradition of disciples as well by transmitting it. But the main influence was within the family. So there is legend, and one of the legendary stories is that there are 2 groups of 3 types of Ashtavaidyas. There are the moose, which are the most in number. Then you have one family which is Nambi, Alathur Nambi. a little word about this family. The story is that Alathur is a place near the Nila River, and they have a legend that the gods of medicine, Ashwini Devatas, the twins, came disguised as birds and were listening to the teaching, and then they descended and learned from the Alathur family and left, leaving some very secret teachings for that family to pursue in the future. So that, which means that some kind of secret teachings were received from somewhere. We don't know, the legend could hide some other meanings. And Alathur Nambi is one of the famous families. Then you have Plamandol Moose, where this Vagbhata is in the legend is supposed to have taught his students. And over the centuries, these families started becoming the centers from where Ayurvedic learning in Sanskrit was diffused. So it went to all layers. So there were ordinary Vaidyas who belonged to maybe the Nayar caste or the Tiya or Mannan. They all got influenced by this tradition. Those people gave the Ayurvedas, the Ashtavaidiyas, local knowledge, and it is from this culture of mixing of many knowledge systems that the Kerala Ayurveda developed. And it became, so if you talk of Ashtavaidiyas, it's actually the Kerala Ayurveda culture, which is unique in the sense that the Ashtanga Vaidya and Ashtavaidya and the Ayurveda that comes from Vagbhata is only in Kerala, and it has become one of the hallmarks of Ayurveda in the revival period in the 20th century. So what we know of Ayurveda, the Panchakarma, these were preserved by these people. Otherwise it was lost in North India.